We would like to invite our monastic brothers and sisters to come up for chanting now. Dạ, con kính bạch xong kính thưa thầy sư cô, con xin mời quý thầy sư cô mình lên được tập tụng kinh. Dạ, cảm ơn đại chúng.
The Sangha is invited to come back to our breathing so that the collective energy of mindfulness will bring us together as an organism, going as a river with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, transcending the boundaries of a delusive self, liberating us from the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
Namo
Testing 1, 2. How's that sound? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got thumbs up in the back. We're good to go. Houston, the other lift up. That should be a little better. Good.
Basically, a retreat is doing something you don't normally do. You are retreating from your busy schedule in life to come and practice on a not as busy schedule of the monastery. So you should have a different experience here. It should not be business as usual, meaning the busy mind as usual. So we take this opportunity to practice and to invest your time and your energy and your insight in the practice center. Okay, so it should be a little different. Your experience should be different. One can assume maybe that's why you've come here. Yeah. Various reasons why. Many reasons. Even there's many reasons to become monastics. For one to become a monk or a nun. Different reasons. You ask a brother, you ask one brother, he'll give you this answer, this explanation. You ask a sister, they'll give you a different answer, a different explanation, because it's all very personal. So this is part of your personal journey, being up here at the monastery for about 5 days. So I hope you take advantage of it, really. Take advantage of it and practice as diligently as possible. Because we build up new habit energies. And I'll talk about habit energies more in a moment. But we're building up a new practice, a new way of being, a new way of looking at things. Looking at ourselves, looking at others, looking at our place in the universe. Okay, so we're transitioning, just as the summer leaves transition into the fall leaves. So, that brings me to a question I love to ask. Why did you come here? What is this all about for you? We have this wonderful monastery and community, and you've taken the time and the energy to come up here to practice meditation and mindfulness. Why? That's a real question. Yeah. So why do you want to practice mindfulness? Marty, why do you like to practice?
Because it helps me to see what's happening inside of me that I'm not aware of. And particularly things that might be making me feel uncomfortable, but I don't quite know where it's coming from. And I find that coming into a setting like this, and quietly, look at that simply, and sometimes be more aware of what's going on inside me to adjust.
Right, to become aware of things that you can be. Where does it come from? Where does this begin? How did this state happen? Yeah. So it's very developing a bit of insight into your experience in life, about who you are. Yeah. Anyone else? Could be you just like it. That's a good answer as well. Yeah. Yes.
Try to cause less suffering in myself and my family and the world.
Okay.
I read a quote recently that says, hurt people. And I think that's really true, and I can see that in my own life, and I want to spare my kids if I can be as happy as I can be.
Right. Understanding one's suffering and how to work with that, because it affects other people. That's,
Just be aware of what's beautiful in the
yeah.
world, and I can stop and see it.
Stopping and seeing the beauty in the world. That's very nice. Very nice. Anyone else? Yes.
Renew my soul.
Renew your soul. Nice. Okay, one more. Oh, way back there.
To notice.
To notice. What are you noticing?
Well, when I walk here, I notice moss on the ground and different flowers and things that I just pass on by in my day-to-day life without noticing.
Okay, noticing. Wonderful. These are all very good answers of why we practice. Mindfulness is an interesting human phenomenon. the ability to look at oneself, to look at our relationship with our own self and with others. It's very, very basic human experience. And it's one that the Buddha really expounded upon. He found a really interesting, deep aspect of humanity of which to draw upon for a spiritual practice. So when we take a look at mindfulness, we really need to understand what that is. Okay. Right now in our society, and quite a bit in Europe as well, mindfulness is being brought into psychotherapy, psychology, into education, business, etc., etc. Because it is such a powerful practice. It's a very powerful thing. So we want to use that. We want to use that human capacity. The Buddha understood the human condition. The human condition. And if you know anything about the writings of the Buddha, the Buddhists throughout the centuries, if we take a look at what we would call the canon of Buddhism, just as you would have a canon in Christianity, you have a canon in Buddhism, that spans centuries. There's volumes of writings that are considered a canon. And all those centuries and all those writers and all those philosophers, practitioners, monastics who've dedicated their lives, it all boils down to 4 very basic propositions that the Buddha taught from. Everything, even the high philosophy of Vasubandhu and Dharmakirti, Nagarjuna, they all go to this very basis of the Buddha's teaching. That would be the 4 Noble Truths. How many have heard of the 4 Noble Truths? Quite a number. Okay, very good. So what's the first one? There is suffering. We're going to use the word dukkha. I'll explain why in a minute. The second. Okay, we're getting a little.
There's a path leading to suffering.
Okay, there would be the origin. So you have suffering or difficulty, you have the origin, then you have usually they say nirvana, but it would be like the absence of dukkha. And number 4, which is, you said, the path leading away from dukkha. Now, what you have to understand with the word dukkha, it is translatable into suffering. But it is also something as simple and basic and almost non-perceivable, dis-ease, discomfort. Okay. That's where the word disease comes from, dis-ease, discomfort. So you have this huge range of human condition, of human possibilities, of human reaction. Everything from full-blown, I'm suffering here, to I don't feel quite right. I don't feel good about this. There's something about this disturbs me. Okay. So it could be a large range of human responses. The origin of dukkha. Okay. Marty said that she was interested in looking at that origin of dukkha. Where does that come from? How does this arise? Then the absence of dukkha, the absence of suffering and dis-ease. Some people look at the Four Noble Truths and see it as something very negative, but there's also something very positive, that there is a way to transcend out of suffering. Okay. So the Buddha had taught, not only is the human condition full of suffering and difficulty, you just look out in the world, look into your own lives, but we're not stuck there. Okay? We're not doomed to have that experience. That we have ability to change, to transition, to transcend out of our difficulties. Okay? And the path. And this is why everyone is here. I'm going to assume that. Okay? We want to learn more about this. We want to look at this path. What is this path? How do we do this? How do we go from here to there? And that's why a lot of people, even people who want to become monastics, we see a lot of our own suffering, and we see this path, and we want to follow it. Or you see that, oh wow, I'm really hurting a lot of people in this life. How do I get out of that? What's going on? Why do I do that? Why do I do what I do? Let's sing the origin. Why do we do what we do? When the Buddha talked about the origin of suffering, where does this come from? He expounded several different things. But they come down to what's called the three poisons. Anyone heard of the three poisons? Anyone heard of the one poison? Yeah. Okay. So the three poisons. Lobha is, I believe that's greed. Or desire. Second, no, that's a secondary. Okay, that would be this would actually be aversion. No, sorry. That would be attraction. In more psychology, vernacular, greed, desire, hatred. Dislike, aversion. And the third? Indifference. Yeah, it would be ignorance or delusion. What would which would create an indifference? Indifference, misperception. That can also be sort of a state of mind that's rather blunt, dulled mind, sort of, I don't know, here, there, I don't know. You're sort of just stuck in this one kind of hazy place, and it creates different ideas that aren't really true. So there's sort of this falsehood with that. So aversion, attraction, greed, desire, attraction, hatred, dislike, aversion. And the Buddha said that all these mental formations that we have are based on these. Okay. So we're talking about something behind the picture, okay, something behind the curtain. When we talk about things like anger, okay, anger isn't just anger. Okay. Unhappiness isn't just unhappiness. Our reactions just aren't those specific reactions, but they come from something else. For example, for me, my anger tends to come from being impatient, or being irritable, or quite more often, misperceptions. Yeah. So instead of looking at my anger, I look at these things that create the conditions for anger. So when I practice with this type of energy, I really watch, am I feeling impatient right now? Am I feeling irritable right now? Do you ever notice when you're not feeling good, you're irritable, and you tend to snap at people? Yeah. Or if you're sick, you don't like that. So you get upset with something, someone says something, you get angry at them, right? That's because something is going on that we have not yet perceived in us, that creates the conditions for these mental formations. Just as there are things behind, underneath, things like joy and happiness. Okay, we can look back at what what is it that creates the joy? What is it that creates the happiness? Okay, so we take our practice, we go a little deeper with it. Okay? And this is directly related to mindfulness and observing, because as you practice calming the mind, as you practice slowing the mind down, getting beyond the chatter, behind the ideas, behind the likes and dislikes, when you use your naked observation more and more, you begin to see things that you haven't seen before, because you're reconditioning your mind. You're reconditioning your brain, you're creating new neural pathways. So this is, in Zen, it aims for the mind, direct to the mind. It's a very basic tradition in Zen. We go right to the mind. And if you really want an interesting practice, as you go about whatever you're doing today, whether it's just walking across the monastery, in your work, responsibilities, when you're sitting down, even when you're talking to people, going to the bathroom, observe your mind. Take a day and just observe your mind and take a look at that. And just see what's going on in your mind. Because that's the basis of our actions, is through our mind. Okay. So on one side, we have aversion. The other side, attraction. And if you observe the mind long enough, with enough subtlety, you begin to see you're either going one way or another. Okay? We're either attracted to something or we're avoiding something. Usually it's a little bit of both. I don't like this, so I'm going to. I don't like scrubbing toilets. I'd rather be doing that else. I don't like this feeling that I'm having right now, so I'm going to do something to avoid that. Okay. Because we don't like being with difficult things. The Buddha talked about suffering in another way, and it's very, very basic. It's almost. I smile because it's so simple. Being around things we don't like. Not being around things we do like. Okay, let me say that again. Being around things we don't like, and being separated from the things we do like. Meaning our mind is in a constant grasping mode, desiring mode. We have this natural propensity for self-preservation. Okay. Not just physically. One time in history, you see a saber-toothed tiger and, you hide and you run. Now it's not only that, but now we have emotional survivability. We're protecting not only our physical self, but we're protecting our emotional self as well. And so we're on this sort of this tether. Just who likes having negative disturbing, ugly emotions. Everyone raise your hand if you really, really like that. And if you really, really like that, maybe I can help you. Yeah, no one likes that. So our mind automatically runs away from that. Maybe it's something like, okay, I'm going to watch TV. Or for some people, that carton of Ben and Jerry's, Chunky Monkey. Or whatever it may be. Okay, when we're talking about people with real psychological difficulties, okay, this is it. It's only to an extreme. Yeah, only to an extreme. So we learn to observe. Learn to observe what you like and what you don't like. It's very challenging. Here at the monastery, we have, we all take turns cooking, and some things I don't like. Some things I don't like. Now, there's some things I can't have because of medical, but that's a bit different. But there are some things that I just don't like to eat. But I eat them anyway. We eat it anyways. Because it's learning how to respond to the likes and dislikes, and this creates the samsara that we continue over and over again. The likes and dislikes. And we're sort of like the water buffalo being led by the ring in the nose, because we're not aware of how our mind works. We don't have that type of insight. So we go along and go along. So when you're sitting in meditation here on the retreat, and you come across things you don't like within you, you notice how we say, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. Work on getting rid of the language and just observe the experience. Okay, that experience of misery. What is that experience of sadness? What is that experience of joy? What is that experience of happiness? Or the sense of fulfillment? Or the sense of equanimity? Or this, whatever that human experience is. Because we are so out of touch with ourselves. Because quite frankly, it's a crazy world we live in. It's becoming smaller and smaller with globalization. More concerns about this, concerns about that, and rightly so. Environment, health, education, poverty. It's a busy world. And we have instant communication. So we know everything that's going on around the world. We have access to that. You throw that on top of your work or school, on top of relationships, family, and all that. Okay. It's very easy to lose oneself. Even as a monastic, we can lose ourselves in monasticism. So don't think we have a free ride. Okay, we work with this, we cultivate this. When the Buddha talked about meditation, the word used is at least in the old sutras, Sita Bhavana, meaning mind development. Sita is mind. Bhavana is development. Mind development, cultivation. So this is what we cultivate. Our ability to develop our mindfulness, which brings us to greater concentration, meaning we're not over there, we're not thinking about this, not thinking about that, what we want to do, what we did, etc., etc. Concentration, one-pointedness. One-pointedness, samadhi, the absence of a busy mind. So with this mindfulness that develops the concentration, we develop insight to the very things that we're looking at today. Insight about ourselves. Where does this happen? Why does this happen? Up on this board, we have something that resembles an oatmeal raisin cookie. But for today, we're going to pretend it's the alaya vijnana, okay, the storehouse consciousness. This represents your mind in 2D on a whiteboard with black ink. The storehouse consciousness. Who's familiar with that? Who's heard of that a bit? Okay. A lot of unknowns out there. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about Buddhist psychology. So we have the alaya vijnana, and this is the storehouse consciousness. And you can kind of take a look at it as part of the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind, where all of our experience from the past is there. We call each experience seeds. Okay, so we have this mind with seeds, like a garden would have with seeds. You know, you have your tomato seeds, you have your squash seeds, not too many of those because they grow so much, we have squash coming out of our ears, spinach seeds, etc., etc., etc. Those seeds are our experiences. So anytime we have, well, not anytime, all the time we're having experiences. Okay. Unless you're dead. Okay. And dead people generally don't come to retreats. Okay. So you're all having experiences. Whether you like it or not, that's the human nature. So, from the moment before you were born, okay, and if you believe in reincarnation or rebirth, past lives, in Buddhist tradition, that's what's present. It's all here, from beginningless time. We're going to work with just our lives here. So, this is the state of mind right now, as you sit here. All your past experiences even before you were born, because scientists have studied the fetus and realized that, yes, they respond to external stimulus as well. We've had one woman who came up here, friends of ours. She brought her, when she was pregnant, she came up just so her fetus could be around the monastery, take in the good energy. Because she understood that life doesn't begin at birth. So all our experiences through our entire life is right here, right now, in the Alaya. Everything's in there. It's in our subconscious mind, meaning we don't have direct access to it. Okay. We could only respond to it. We can feed into it, okay. But we can't directly see it, so we can't use our mindfulness to access the Alaya Vijnana. So that's a big part of what we would call the unconscious mind, the things that come up from there. But there's more. There's also it's called the manas. This is the I maker. Okay, you know how you go around thinking, oh, I like this, I don't like that, I am this, I am that. Okay. That all comes up from the subconscious mind of the I maker. This is also the area of self-preservation. When we talk in psychology, when they talk about the fight, flight, or freeze response in animals and in human beings, it's part of the manas. Okay, so this makes the I. This is our survival mechanism, whether it's physical or emotional, okay. Relationship-wise, that I. And we can take a look at that, and we can see what our mind develops around that I. What develops around that I? Again, aversion and attraction. So when we talk about habit energies, we talk about that quite a bit. It's really part of our practice, looking at habit energies. So what is a habit energy? One, it's an energy, and it's a habit. All done. Yeah. So what happens, habit energies are generally unconscious. We're not aware of them. Okay. They come from our subconscious mind. They come from the alaya and the manas. And we do these things over and over again. Habit energies. And what it does, the more when we act on habit energies, it just reinforces those seeds. Okay, so there's this feedback system. Okay. We become what we are. And we are what we become. So if I have a habit energy of I don't know, negativity, dislike, distrust, and I'm not aware of it, that distrust, dislike, etc., negativity comes out of the seeds of the subconscious mind. I act upon those things, and I just create more seeds. Because I'm not aware of it. So we're just reinforcing those behaviors over and over again. When we practice, we begin to see these habit energy of ourselves, or our responses, what comes up from the subconscious mind. When we see the reactions the chain reaction in the mind, our willingness to do those things. We're feeding the Alaic, we're feeding those seeds. And that will be a continual pattern. And the more you do it, the more you act upon it, the more ingrained they become. Okay, that's a habit. We're creating neural pathways. In the same way, if we bring up the positive seeds, okay, the beneficial seeds, the more joy, the more happy, the more equanimity seeds, okay, then we can create new habits, okay, new energies. So we don't always respond in this way. We can create a new response, and we'll feed that seed, create more seeds over and over again. I have a propensity for negative thoughts. If I let those go, everything is wrong in the world. Yeah. But I know that. So I can see the negativity come up, and I can go, hey, not so fast. I see that. So I can change that. Change the perspective on those things. Okay, we can do that. We can change the perspectives. When we perceive, we think we're free. You know, especially in our culture, in our society, we think we're free. We have a lot of freedom. That's really talking about political freedom. Okay, that go to the ballot, representation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what we have to understand is these seeds, our unconscious mind, pretty much dictate what we look at in terms of selectiveness, selective attention, how we look at something, how we respond to something. Okay, so when we're talking about a perception, there's no real unhindered perception. The mind filters. The mind filters what we see, how we perceive what we perceive. Okay, but we're unaware of that. For example, you see someone's actions. Two people observe the same action of an individual, and they have grossly different interpretations of that action and of that person. One person can see them as a saintly bodhisattva. The other one, it's a real Mara. No, that's a real difficulty there. So our perceptions are tainted. It's sort of like the idea of the rose-colored glasses. And we have to become aware of that. This is why we learn to stop and question ourselves. Our teacher talks a lot about that phrase. He uses the phrase quite a bit. Are you sure? You see something happening, we respond. And we have a judgment, and we bring the I into it. Are you sure? Is this the way it really is? Or am I seeing it through my views, which tend to be based on habit energies? Views about this, views about that, really come from the deep inside. aspects of the unconscious mind. We just elaborate them. Well, you've had your first course in Buddhist Psychology 101, which gets quite a bit deeper and more complex. So I think I'd like to take a few minutes, because this is a lot of information, right? It's a lot of technical aspects and terminology. So I'd like to take the next few minutes for any questions you may have regarding the practice, or the talk. Yes?
You mentioned a practice of being with things that are unpleasant.
Yes.
Can you talk about that just a little bit more?
Being with things unpleasant is a practice. It's a very challenging practice. Yes. She's asking about the practice of being with things you don't like, correct? Yeah. Being with things we don't like, such as ornery teenagers. Sounds like my family, me and my sisters. Ornery teenagers, okay. It's all the same thing. Whether it's an ornery teenager or a food you just don't like, or a color or TV show or whatever. It's a dislike. It's an aversion. So my practice is I observe it. I observe that force, that energy that wants me to escape. Sometimes it's in meetings, get me out of here. So we want to escape. Okay, so we practice with that. Okay, we go back to the breath. Again, the breath is the anchor, whether you're walking, sitting, or lying down. Okay. We go back to the breath. Calm the senses down, because you're all worked up. You're ready to go, and your mind is going. Okay, it's creating this voice, and it's creating this dialogue, and it's eventually is going to create a reason why I should not be here with this difficulty. Okay, so our minds naturally create a response and a justification for running away. Well, we better eat that ice cream before the kids get it. or whatever. We create so many different stories. So we use the stories. Negativity, escape from. Calm the mind, you calm the body down. Follow your breath. Take a breath and go. And relax the body. And that's important. The mind and body are so interconnected. Even Freud thought the unconscious was based in the body, not the brain. So you see it, you're creating this energy, this mind energy, this physical energy, and you calm that down by using the breath. Then you go back to the breath, in and out. Or if it's very disturbing, count in breath or out breath, okay, just like in meditation. So being with something difficult, calming the senses down. It's like you're trapped and you want out, like a trapped animal. Okay, another question? In the back in white.
You asked who enjoys having negative or unpleasant feelings.
Yes.
I don't think anybody would raise their hands, but then I thought, well, actually, why do I and others sometimes keep repeating things that are going to have that sort of outcome?
Yes.
And so it was said, sometimes the devil will know who preferred that to the unknown, or the landmark implication says if you have certain repeating complaints, there must be payoff and something out of it, like looking good or being right. So anyway, I'm just saying on an unconscious level, maybe sometimes we do sort of like some unpleasant feelings. So I just want to think about that.
Yes, you can. Of course, we have a habit energy of negativity or habit energy of destructive aspects, emotionally, psychologically. But they're not preferable. We may tolerate them. We may be with them grudgingly. But we're certainly not in love with them. So they're there, part of the landscape, part of the human landscape. When we're talking about likes and dislikes, Thai talks a lot about the mud and the lotus. Well, you have to have difficulties to transform, or there's nothing to transform. Right? In other words, you have to have the mud in order to have the lotus. So in one sense, yes, I do like my negative emotions and feelings and thoughts in terms of being able to transform them. I don't like being in them. I don't like that experience, of course not. But I understand that they can lead to something else. This difficulty can lead to the end of suffering and difficulty. Transforming the mud into the lotus. And they're the same. Yeah. Maybe one more question before we break. In the back? Yeah. How do we know if we're sure? Am I sure? Are you, yeah, are you sure? Are you sure? Look in life, there's no book to get through life. Yeah, there's no book. We can rely on wisdom of our elders, the people who've gone before us. There's sort of an idea, the finger pointing to the moon. But when it comes down to it, only we can answer that question. Okay? Because that's our own personal question. The question is, can we get to the point to where we can actually ask that question of, are we sure? Am I sure? Just getting to that question, learning to get to that question, and asking ourselves that question, that's a bit of work. That's a bit of practice. But am I sure? We have to look at and go by our own experiences. Yeah. The importance of meditation, mindfulness, concentration, insight, observing the breath, okay, of calming the mind down. When we do that, we develop clarity in our lives. Clarity of what I should be doing, where I should be going, what do I need to be doing, what I don't need to be doing. So we develop these moments of clarity, which is related to insight. Insight is very much like a clarity about something. So when we get beyond the busy mind and the judging mind and the emotional mind and even the rational mind, you can't think your way through. Okay, there's this sort of intuition that deep down that we know, or we know that we don't know. Yeah. That's pretty profound. It's pretty profound. So we listen to ourselves. And through practicing, we can hear ourselves more. Because we don't listen to ourselves. We listen to everything going on around us, usually. So that's why we practice to change the way we listen. Now we can listen to ourselves. What does Phap Vu have to say today? Oh, right now he's getting hungry. I can hear my stomach, feel my stomach. You know. Okay, he needs to transcend his shyness about getting up in front of people. Okay, so listening to oneself. Yeah. Very good. Okay, it's just a little after 11. I think we'll end here. And I think there will probably be announcements. Huh? Is there announcements? Okay, I get a... Okay, we'll just see how it goes. So we'll just end with 3 sounds of the bell.